Hello again, welcome back. We're now going to talk about the rosters, and we're going to start off with the defending champion, Smash Mouths.
This is our AFC edition, so if you're in the AFC and you want to find out how your team, what we think of your team, good time to tune in.
Okay, well, first of all, we talked about the trade, talked about now they have Aaron Rodgers on their squad, which could be in healthy combination with Eddie Lacy, even though I think Eddie Lacy's going to be running the ball more. I don't think he's going to catch a lot of passes in backfield. But he does have a lot more flexibility, okay, with that particular combo. Looking at some of the other players that he's got on his roster,
I drool over his running backs. I drool.
I think he's got tremendous depth at that position.
Oh my God, Charles!
Despite the trade of Lynch.
Yeah, Marshawn Lynch and Monte Ball, I see Charles, Eddie Lacy's his top two backs, and then hey, for a flex position, if I'm feeling lucky, Le'Veon Bell, Fred Jackson, I feel comfy.
Yep, I think he's got a solid core of running backs. His wide receivers are pretty good.
His wide receivers are fantastic. Des Bryant, Keenan Allen, Kendall Wright, who caught 90 passes, but only had 2 touchdowns. I think that number's going to go up this year.
It's a good possibility. He could be using that as a flex position.
Yeah, his choices are amazing for this team.
It'll be curious to see if Keenan Allen duplicates the type of rookie season that he had last year. That was a terrific pickup in the free agency last year. But, yeah, he's got a lot of depth, and he's got Andre Johnson, which he could actually use at certain games this year. So, to me, he's got a lot of depth at that particular positions and the running backs as well. He could interchange Rodgers and McCown, but to be honest, he'll be starting Rodgers, I believe, most likely.
Jake McCown should get comfy on the bench because he's going to
he's got a good, solid tight end in Cameron. So, he's got great position players.
Charles Clay for his Dolphin connection.
Yes. Yep, he's got Clay, too. He's got one of the better kickers in the game in Gostkowski, so we can't actually forget about that as well.
The weakness here is probably going to be, if there's something to pick on this team, it'll be the offensive position, being ran by Atlanta and Kansas City.
I don't think necessarily they're bad.
I don't think they're bad either, but if I'm looking at this team and going, what's the weakest thing I can talk about with this team? It's his offense.
We look at Atlanta and we saw what they did last year. I think they'll have a much better year this year.
Atlanta's going to bounce back. I don't disagree with that, but I just look at them like I'm worried about, if anything, on that team, the offense. This is a fantastic team that is built to repeat. I guess I have my concerns on the offense.
I think more of the question is whether or not you think that Pedro has a solid 1. Is that exactly what you're complaining about more than anything
I don't think he has a solid 1 offense. I think he has 2 decent number 2s. If someone's going to beat this team, it's going to be based on that their offense is going to come and light it up. That's where the weakness is. Defense is okay with St. Louis and Tampa. Not sure how far they'll go, but I'd say they're running the same problems where I don't see any of them being top 5. Maybe one of them gets lucky and hits the top 10.
He had the same defense last year in St. Louis and did pretty well for him during certain games. And, Tampa Bay, it depends upon what games that you actually use Tampa Bay.
As a manager, Pedro's proven to be a adept manager the last couple of years in this league, so I trust his judgment in knowing how to start the players. I think this is a lock and loaded team. I'm excited to see what Pedro can do, see if he can break the Super Bowl curse.
But 2 years in a row, by the way. No one has actually won the Super Bowl 2 years in a row.
Like 16 years in a row. There's no one's done it since the existence of our league, pal.
Yes, I know. So, look, a lot of things could happen for the Smash Mouths this year. And we wish him the best of luck, but he certainly has a great squad. It'll be tough to deal with during the season.
Yeah, all right. Now let's turn our attention to the Falcons. Last year, another just missed the playoffs beat. They continue their I won the Super Bowl, and that's... Hey, I don't think
they've made the playoffs in quite some time.
They haven't made the playoffs since they won the Super Bowl. Talk about one-hit wonder here. Well, Mike, size up the Falcons for me. Are they breaking... what do we think of their roster?
Well, they kept Stafford. I think that more was a no-brainer, and they have Calvin Johnson as well.
Sneaky combo,
It's a sneaky combo. It's a very good deadly combo. The question is, does he have anything else to actually complement those two? Looking at his roster right now, the running backs are iffy. Frank Gore, he's okay. We're expecting maybe big things out of Chris Johnson this year of the Jets. Maybe he'll perform better than what he did in Tennessee. I know, because I had Chris Johnson for several years with the Titans. So maybe I expect
Mike knows firsthand about Chris Johnson and failure.
Yes, I do. So the idea is we'll see exactly what he does. Maybe a new offense actually changes. Who knows?
Reggie
I
Bush
certainly was looking at Chris Johnson during this draft.
I like Reggie Bush to pair with Stafford. It's another nice little combo move there for receiving touchdowns. I'm not sure how much Bush is going to get you on the ground this year, but I can tolerate Reggie Bush as your third back. I look at your wide receiving core, though, and I worry.
Well, there's not a lot of depth after Calvin Johnson. Looking at it, Emmanuel Sanders had a good year last year for Pittsburgh. Let's see how well he does with the Broncos. Maybe this will be a diamond in the rough. okay, for the Falcons. It's a question whether or not you think he's the number 2 receiver, or whether or not you think that Tavon Austin actually is going to have the type of year that he had last year. Plus, it'll be a good plus for him in the kick return game. So it's an added bonus, but it doesn't scare you.
I feel shaky with his wide receiving course compared to other teams in this league. I feel shaky there. Tight end is okay. Jared Cook, Colby Fleener. Okay.
To be honest, you can make an argument that the tight ends are better than his receiving core with something to Calvin Johnson.
That's why I'm so worried about his wide receiving core. I look at Jared Cook and Colby Fleener and think that's not too bad to use my flex on.
Yeah. He's got 2 solid offenses.
Oh, I love his offenses. 2 top 10 offenses in Philly and Dallas. Of course, only one will be able to start every week, but it's nice that you retain Dallas.
It's interesting that he's had 2 divisional, so it'll be interesting to see what happens when they play each other twice during the year.
I'm sure he's picking Philly to win. Just my thought there.
Yeah. So that's the interesting part. Other than that, those are 2 solid offenses.
Defense, Casey and Indianapolis.
I think he's relying based upon the performance that they actually had from last year, how each made the postseason, but they have two tough schedules this year, considering that they made the playoffs. So
I'm shaky on his defenses and I'm shaky on his wide receivers. They scare me.
Yep, I don't necessarily have a lot of confidence, but it depends upon when you actually start each of those defenses. So
I worry about his judgment. Fortunately, as a fantasy owner, the Falcons have been off on choices a lot when it comes to making these decisions.
He's looking to break that playoff trend.
He needs to, quite frankly. I can't keep living off this one Super Bowl win forever. I think if Stafford breaks out this year with Calvin, this is going to be a very good team on given weeks. Oh, yeah.
It'll happen on given weeks. He'll get points from both.
He's
going to
have
the question is, will he get points from anyone else outside of his offense? And how much is his defense actually going to give up to offset that?
Yeah, that's good. He's going to be an interesting team to play week by week. All right, so let's turn our attention to the Blitz. Coming off after winning Super Bowl 2 years ago, Blitz went back down to their mellow groove of a 5-win season.
Fire sale team.
Yep, they fire sailed their way. And how'd they do with all my draft picks, Mike?
Well, considering you made a lot of trades, you certainly had a lot of depth this year. Obviously, you kept Drew Brees, and like you normally do, you only keep one quarterback, so expected to use him every single week with something to the bye. You even like to use him on the road.
I'm feeling frisky, Mike. I like Breeze. He'll give me 2 touchdowns, mostly guaranteed every week. Unless he's playing Seattle's defense, and if I need a quarterback, he's there.
With Breeze, it's more of a given. That you would be able to get that type of production.
Yeah. Well, the Blitz running backs, Mike. Let's go down the line here.
Well, looking at the running backs, I think they're decent. I think they're solid. I certainly think at times they could have good breakout games. And Morris, and Bernard, and Matthews. We don't know necessarily how well their teams are going to do, but you feel confident, in particular within their own building with Morris and Matthews. They don't necessarily have a lot of great success on the road. That's the only thing that would concern me out of your running back core. Bernard's a good, solid running back. I think he could even get more carries this year. I think actually, out of the 3, he may be your best one. It's debatable.
No, I think Bernard probably has my biggest potential. I think Morris is good for what he's going to give me. I don't expect too much out of Morris from what he normally does, which is fine.
And you throw Andre Ellington in the mix, but one thing I see is that each of those running backs, with except maybe Bernard, has more success in their building, as opposed to on the road. That's the one thing. It'll
be about how I play the matchups. It will be about that. But having choices is never a bad thing. There are teams we'll be talking about today who don't seem to have any choice, but they run out what they have.
Well, hopefully that's what free agency will do to help those squads.
How about wide receiver, Mike?
Well, Brandon Marshall's solid. One of the top, 5, I would actually say, within this league. So no problems there. The question is whether Garcon could actually come back healthy. Other than that, he could certainly be a threat within the Washington offense. Roddy White's a good, solid pick. We expect bigger things out of Atlanta this year, better than what they had last year. So Roddy White could be a very solid pick. Whether or not he'll be the number 1 receiver or Julio Jones will yet to be seen. But certainly he'll get a share of touches. And Patterson, Patterson is a developing receiver. To me, he's still playing on a very bad Minnesota Vikings team, but one thing that's an added bonus is with the flex position, you could actually put him in that position, and he could even score on kick and punt returns. So certainly that's an added bonus.
For a 4th wide receiver, it's not bad. Talk about the offenses, Mike. Chicago, Minnesota.
Well, I think that the weakest link in your team more so is your second offense. Chicago's a solid offense. We know exactly what they could do, and particularly within their own building. But Minnesota is a big question mark. I don't expect this team to go anywhere this year. They're better at home than they are on the road, so I expect them to at least score more points in their building. But I expect you to use Chicago the majority of the season anyway.
I look back at on draft day, and I regret taking Minnesota's offense when I did. There were definitely some offenses I probably passed on that day, and I blame myself on this one. Minnesota I'm gonna hang in there at Minnesota and see if they can pull it off. But I do look at there are some other options I probably could have taken. I do agree there. Defense wise, Seattle is the number one
Seattle's
defense.
solid, Super Bowl champ, so no argument there. They probably would have been maybe the first defense taken off the board.
They might have been the first pick if I didn't keep them.
Yeah. Well, maybe. And Miami would be a solid backup. Miami's not a bad defense. Depends on which game that you elect to start them. But it's a backup. I kind of expect you to use Seattle the majority of the time.
So what's the biggest issue you think the Blitz are facing this year, trying to getting back to the playoffs?
Well, I think the offense. I think that the offense is going to be the key. Because to me, not necessarily having a great solid backup, Chicago's not necessarily going to score a lot every single week. So the question is...
Sneaky fact about Chicago's offense, number 2 in points per game last year. Sneaky
Whether
fact.
or not they would be able to duplicate that.
That's the other story, but just to point out, no one really thought about it. Chicago was the number 2 offense last year. Not by much, but...
They did have 2 games where they scored like 50-plus points.
Yeah.
So
Do we think they could duplicate that? That's going to be a very interesting question, but certainly worth the risk of taking Chicago. It's more of a question that you're necessarily not going to start them every single week. So the question is, do you dare elect to take a shot at Minnesota during 1 week?
Yeah, that'll be an interesting dilemma as we go, especially as we go into bye week territory.
Yeah.
All right, so our last team is our also 2-time Super Bowl champion, the Killer Toads. Let's talk a bit about what we see here from Rob this year, Mike. He kept Matt Ryan, which I found interesting.
Don't have an issue with him keeping Matt Ryan. If you expect Atlanta to rebound, he's a good, solid quarterback. I would still keep him.
Why take the risk on the rebound, though? Isn't there a safer play he could have made, probably, with his roster?
I think Matt Ryan is going to be very productive because he's going to have his healthy wide receivers back, he'll have Steven Jackson back. If you expect bigger things from Atlanta, which I think that Rob does, then you keep Matt Ryan. I don't have a problem. I think he would have gone in the first round anyway. Okay, considering his reputation, I expect a lot bigger things from Atlanta this year.
Speaking of, let's go to his running back position, which for him is pretty weak this year. Rob's known for having a great running back core. I
think it is very
What happened
deep.
here? Rashad Jennings and Trent Richardson are your really only 2 backs.
I think really Rob paid attention a lot more to the wide receiving position during the draft. You'll see that within the first 2 rounds when he drafted Green and Jeffrey. There was not a lot of depth heading into the second round with the running backs. There was not a lot of depth even when the first round with the running backs. A lot of them went off the board in terms of keepers. So keep bearing that in mind, it doesn't look very promising. I mean, Jennings may have a touchdown or so with the Giants, but I'm not banking on him as the number 1 running back on this team, which he clearly is.
I feel worried about having Jennings and Richardson carrying.
And we all see what Richardson has done in the past, and to take another flyer on him again, that's a very iffy. And Mason's probably not even the start on the Panthers this year, so he does not have a lot of depth at this position.
I like his top-heavy wide receivers with Jeffrey and Green.
Yeah, I think that the main production out of this team this year and heavily is going to be on the wide receiving production in Green and Jeffrey. Jeffrey had a great year last year. You expect better things out of Jeffrey this year. He had him on his squad last year, so he clearly thinks that Jeffrey could be the savior to this team.
You guarantee his flex position is probably going to be playing wide receiver, probably.
But
between Harvin, Watkins, and Benjamin, someone there is going to. He's going to be guessing
the
each
biggest
week.
risk that he's taking is that he expects bigger things at a wide receiving position to compensate for his running backs, and I think that's the key. When you look at the rookie wide receivers, we know that Rob actually likes those wide receivers. Look at Watkins, look at Benjamin. You look at 2 solid players that were in college. Whether or not they would be able to translate it to the NFL, we'll see. Looking at it, it's really heavily relying on those 2 wide receivers to do something this year for him, considering what he's got at the tight end position, which is Eifert, which did not produce for him last year. But that's what he needs in order to compete.
Martellus Bennett, fresh off his fight, he'll definitely fight players if necessary. So.
Well, yeah, Bennett, I think, will do something for him.
I like Bennett. I even like when he fights during the preseason. It's fantastic.
Yes.
Offense, what do you think? Colton and Arizona.
Colts are a solid offense.
I like the Colts. Colts will carry it.
Yeah, Colts will carry him. I don't see any problems with that. Whether or not Arizona is going to duplicate what they did last year is going to be very interesting to watch during this year.
I dare him to start Arizona against a divisional opponent.
Yeah, I will.
At 6 games of the year,
Arizona could actually put 20+ points at home. It's more a question what you think they're going to output it on the road. More so, I don't know if Carson Palmer will be able to score as much this year as he did last year.
Not a bad backup though.
It's not. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's better than his.
Yeah.
It's better than his.
I feel better with Minnesota's divisional matchups than I do with the NFC West.
I still think it's better than yours.
Probably, but on paper, when we get to the actual individual matchups, Arizona's going to have some problems pulling the start. And defensively, Carolina's a top 5 defense.
He's riding up on what Carolina did last year, and we'll see if Carolina's going to duplicate that. Carolina's going to be a very interesting team to watch this year. I don't know if they're going to be able to duplicate the same type of performance they actually had.
If they do, he's okay there. If not, oh boy, Buffalo is his backup.
Yeah.
No, I don't feel good about that.
It depends when you get Buffalo. Buffalo probably better start at home than they would be on the road.
Backup defense so far.
So far, we haven't gotten to any of the other
so
teams
far?
yet.
I said so
Yes.
far.
All right. Well, that leads us to rank where we think this division's going to go. And Mike and I came up with the division order. First place, we think Smash Mouth are taking this division. We think this is the Smash Mouth. We think the Smash Mouth will repeat as divisional champs.
Yeah.
The combination of what they have here: running back, wide receiver. Now we're adding a top 5 quarterback with Aaron Rodgers. Now, beat this team is going to be tough. Second place, Mike, who we pick?
Well, judging by what we saw earlier, I would still think that Eugene may have a slight advantage.
All right, so you think Falcons are going to take second? I can buy that if Stafford stays healthy and they get something out of the wide receiving core. I think that's the key here. Get something out of the wide receiving core.
Johnson.
I think it could be a toss-up really between you and the Falcons. Iffy, very iffy.
Interchangeable,
Interchangeable.
You're back and forth there.
Yeah, I'm back and forth with either you or Eugene.
And I think the agreement here is Rob, the Killer Toes, will be bringing up the rear this year in our prediction.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of depth on their team overall as compared to your squad, Eugene's squad, and the Falcons.
Well, that's Smash Mouth, you mean, but yeah, Rob's team just looks barren compared to the rest of the division.
He's relying on rookies really to help him out more so than anything else.
We'll look forward to seeing what happens here, but we do think the Smash Mouth have this division down pat. And maybe some wild card potential with the Falcons and Blitz. So, that's the AFC. Stay tuned for the NFC coming up next.